Welcome, Off-Season After Dark fans. Glad to have you here for episode 33. Come a long ways, and we have another Conference USA episode, which I've been looking forward to. We have Jake Gibson here from the Paws Up Podcast, and who also writes for Lemon City Live. We're making the rounds through CUSA. It's been fun. So one of my episodes a few weeks ago had a Missouri State guy.
Right.
Jacksonville State was a preseason one. Western Kentucky was early in the season. Tried to find a Sam Houston and a Middle Tennessee one. Haven't had any luck getting anybody from those schools.
Okay.
But I'm trying to think of. Oh, and Kennesaw had a Kennesaw one when after they'd moved up, but before they had played any games. So I have hit both of the new teams. But yeah. Jake, glad to have you here. I appreciate, it's always awesome to have a school of a fan base we haven't had on before, and also a school that's in a state that other SEC teams are in. So hopefully our, listeners are going to be able to engage with you and, know a little bit about the school you're talking about. But why don't you just tell us a little bit, Jake, about yourself, where our viewers can find you, and what got you covering FIU Panther football?
Well, it's great to be on, Mike. Thank you for having me. And to the SEC fan base, I just say I hope that maybe in 20, 40 years, we can finally get a school based in Miami to join the SEC. And I'm not talking about the school in Florida, in Coral Gables. But, I've been the host of the Paws Up Podcast for a few years now. We began in late 22. And it's been awesome. We're the official fan podcast of FIU Athletics. We've published over 100 episodes. I mean, most recently, conveniently enough, had the head coach of the team, Willie Simmons, on. That was a super fun interview. You can find it on all of our platforms across social media. It was a great time. And I was a student at FIU from 2018 and graduated in 22. And well, as far as like podcasts go that covered the internet, that covered FIU, there were none. So myself and my co-host, Kevin Barral, who is also works for Lemon City Live. We wanted to start one up, and we did. And the rest, as they say, is history. We've built a great relationship with the university, and we all, of course, try to attend as many games and practices and pretty much anything at FIU, regardless of the sport. But obviously, we love football.
Yeah, so you guys have been covering baseball quite a bit.
Yeah, we've been covering baseball. As a matter of fact, a couple of our writers are at the time of recording. We have a basketball game tonight. Conveniently, on 305 day, March 5th. So that's a pretty big day for us with festivities and whatnot. But
is this their last regular season game, or will they have one over the weekend?
There is one on senior day. Okay. On Saturday. I'll be at that one at the Vacation Center. It's kind of like a win and you're in kind of situation for the Panthers getting into the tournament in Huntsville. But FIU Athletics has grown pretty solidly these last few years. Well, obviously with all the off the field stuff, like of course the Vice, which takes over social media every year. The Pitbull Stadium news was great. And then, of course, getting Willie Simmons, who has changed the look of FIU football in just one season. So it's been amazing. You can follow me at Jake the MC on all social media accounts. Aside from just FIU, I also work for Lemon City Live, which is a South Florida sports outlet. So you can catch the rest of my work there. And, of course, I guess I got to give my co-host a shout-out as well, Kevin, at Kevin_Barral. He also
you do a good job pronouncing that. I appreciate it.
You have to roll the R's here in South Florida. You must, or else you'll be seen as an outsider. You got to drink your cafecito. You have to, and you have to know at least a bit of Spanish. And then and then at Paws Up Podcast on all social media accounts. And then we usually drop an episode once a week. You can find it live on our X and YouTube accounts.
Awesome. So again, glad to have you here. One of the things, I really wanted to get into was the infancy of the Willie Simmons era. So he was a guy who, even back in his Florida A&M days, the last couple of years, was a couple 9-win seasons, then a 12-win season. And in my writing for Mike Farrell Sports, a lot of coaching carousel stuff is kind of my wheelhouse. And I was kind of banging the drum for him that this guy should be an FBS head coach. When's he going to get a shot? Well, then he took the running backs job at Duke with Manny Diaz, and then was only there for a year before getting the FIU job. But remember, like that off season, heck, I think, I'll typically do candidate lists, and I think there were 3 of them in that conference because FIU was open, Kennesaw was open, and Jerry Mack was another guy who was like, this guy should get a job. So, I mean, there were a few openings, and at the time I thought it was a home run hire. And honestly, year 1 went better than I expected it would based on how they'd been the last couple of years. And I thought Coach Mack was a good coach, but they elevated more than I expected in year 1.
The Mike McIntyre era definitely was an extremely disappointing era because you felt like he could coach a team that was quality enough to have a winning record season by season. It never really translated here during his time here. And then in comes Willie Simmons, who geographically is a home run hit from the state of Florida, knows it like the back of his hand, especially when it comes to recruiting. No stranger to South Florida either. And he proved that immediately with prioritizing recruiting here in South Florida, which we can all agree is one of if not the best hotbed for football talent in the entire United States of America. And he developed a winning / family culture here at FIU that we hadn't seen in a while. It really felt like it was one big family that had to battle through some adversity at times this past season, but they got the job done through it all. And one thing he prioritized was playing your best football late. Well, they went undefeated in the month of November, not just got into a bowl game for the first time since 2019, but wrapped up with a 7-5 record, which was, something that McIntyre and a lot of other coaches in FIU's very young time as an FBS program could not do. So, the first season of the Willie Simmons era for me was a slam dunk, and it can only get better. And that's kind of this is a good problem to have.
It is.
But the expectations have now rapidly increased in just 1 year with Willie. Now getting to a bowl game is kind of like the expectation. And if he wants to say this upcoming season is an improvement, at the bare minimum, not only do you have to go to a bowl game, you have to win it. Because we did kind of get shellacked by UTSA in that first responder bowl. But, Conference USA is wide open, and I'm sure Willie and a lot of people now believe that this team could be a sleeper contender for being in the Conference USA championship game.
Certainly. And I was glad you brought up, that going on a heater in November, because you guys got 2 massive wins there. Even though by what we expected from Liberty, they were a little down, they were still a pretty good football team. And then the next week, you beat Jacksonville State, who has played in the conference title game 2 years in a row. Both were massive W's, and you wouldn't have gotten into a bowl game without them.
That's
big. Yeah.
Without a doubt. Going into this season, I wanted to see a lot of things to ensure that this season would be an overall success. I wanted to see us beat our rival in Florida Atlantic, which we hadn't done in a long time, and we did. We kind of manhandled them, which was amazing to see. I needed to see FIU be competitive on the road, and then we ended up with three wins on the road, including 2 in that month of November. And aside from just the FAU, and I wanted to see some other wins that I would consider memorable in Conference USA, like wins that we can remember for a while. We got that almost off the rip in that win against Western Kentucky on the road when nobody gave FIU a prayer in a nationally televised game, and during, as we like to call it, weekday CUSA.
I believe my episode with Topper Talk is the guys that I had on. I think my episode with them, we recorded, it was either the day or a day or 2 before that.
Shout out Moth.
But yes, that's exactly who it was.
Aside from Western Kentucky, we also got some other marquee wins in the conference, like you had mentioned, Liberty and Jacksonville State, who are teams that had given FIU trouble in years past. We took them both down. Liberty on homecoming to secure bowl eligibility, and then Jack State just for the hell of it. And this season for Willie Simmons and FIU, it's such a breath of fresh air for the FIU faithful. This is a fan base that is hungry in a large university here in South Florida, right in the heart of Miami, that wants to see success in football. And so far, Willie Simmons is doing that.
And I was looking at the schedule before. Am I correct? At USF is the season opener.
Yep.
And that's a team that is going to, few teams in the country will be going through more changes than USF will be going into next year. That whole roster's new. Then FAU will be on the road.
Yeah, FAU will be on the road, and that's going to be fun getting to, because we have a trophy in our rivalry. It's called the Shula Bowl. We have a trophy. We even have a custom trophy case for it that we've had for a couple of years now. We finally got the trophy in. Now we're going to have to bring it and defend it in Boca Raton. But like you mentioned, USF and Tampa, that's going to be a fun road trip. Not too long a drive to get there too. So I expect to see plenty of FIU people make it out. And then you got Buffalo at home from the MAC.
With Pete Lembo, they've been a salty team. They'll be all right. Yeah.
And then we got an FCS team yet to be named. So
is it not going to be Long Island U?
That's what the rumblings are. And as a matter of fact, in our most recent episode with Willie Simmons, who we had on, he explicitly said it himself. So that's the expectation, but I don't think anything is 100% confirmed from either team. But that is what we are expecting. We've played them before.
And I suppose with Conference USA and the Sun Belt, as of yet not able to make their conference schedules because of the La Tech stuff, you might have to keep that FCS game off of the schedule until you know your bye weeks and when you can play it.
This is a very strange time in Conference USA, and if FIU wants to compete for a spot in the championship game next year, every win in the conference is going to matter even more, because you are losing for sure one team in UTEP that's moving to the Mountain West. So Conference USA is going to be down a team. So you better make it could potentially be down two teams regarding whatever happens with Louisiana Tech. So these conference wins are going to matter more than ever with a smaller overall conference.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's I had kind of wondered. It's surprising to me because just with all the conference movement, CUSA's kind of been that conference where you guys are taking the FCS teams that move up, but two teams jumped up and neither of them went to Conference USA. So, they're both decent teams, but in a way, I almost like it for your stability. If you're not just taking new members because you need to. It's probably good to get rid of that label at some point.
This was way before my time, but I've been told that Conference USA was once a conference that was had more credibility than the Sun Belt or the American.
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
With teams that have gone on to become power conference teams like Cincinnati, Houston, UCF, just name a few.
Was Louisville? Louisville was one of them too.
Louisville was there too. Now they're in the ACC, of course. But I mean, Conference USA was pillaged once a few years ago by pretty much every other Group of 5 conference, and now they're kind of being pillaged again with UTEP and Louisiana Tech. And Conference USA is just not in a position to grab teams from other FBS schools, so they're going to have to look to FCS, and they've done good with that so far with some of these pickups like Jacksonville State and Kennesaw State, who have won Conference USA in their first few seasons, and have competed.
Delaware and Missouri State were both pretty good in year one.
They both got to bowl games as well. So Conference USA has had some slam dunk picks from FCS to FBS. You're looking at teams like Tarleton State, and that is a
Stephen F. Austin could be in that.
Yeah, those kind of schools that are on a lot of people. Eastern Kentucky, you can throw in there too.
Okay, I forgot about that. Heck, that's an hour away from Marshall. That'd be a decent way for us to play. Yeah, it's interesting though. Like you had mentioned, you're not in a place to pull from other FBS conferences. I never thought of it that way, but it really is true because the smaller campus town places will go Sun Belt. The big city, bigger markets will go American. It's just kind of the brands that both those conferences have put down.
Miami's kind of the exception to that, though. FIU is kind of in a weird predicament, like over 55K enrollment, like alumni in the hundreds of thousands here in South Florida alone, and obviously it's Miami.
And I'm sure the Americans' response to that would be, well, we put a marker down with FAU, so I don't know how much truth there is to that, but that's probably how they would rationalize it anyway.
We are members of the American in men's soccer and swim and dive. Just
we are for swim and dive. We are for women's swim and dive because we dropped the program a couple weeks ago.
That is correct.
But let's unpack the Louisiana Tech stuff. So they're going to be the next members of the Sun Belt, which there is around the Sun Belt very mixed feelings. Personally, as a neophyte to the conference, I actually think it's all right. There's history there, and they've done some good things. But a lot of the old heads and people that have been, especially in the Sun Belt East schools, They did not want La Tech, but whatever, who cares what they want to some extent? Who cares what I want, I guess. But the thought, was before July 1st of 27, La Tech will join the Sun Belt.
Yes.
Now they want to push that up, but it was, I don't know if it was undefined on their date, but Conference USA put them on their schedule for next year, or is trying to, and the Sun Belt hasn't released the conference schedule yet because they're waiting for that. Yeah. So, and now La Tech is, I don't know if they're doing some kind of injunction or trying to,
that's what I've heard. That's what
I just read that today. In fact, filed a lawsuit seeking an injunction against CUSA. Yeah.
Yeah, they want to get there as soon as July and just get rolling with all their sports. And look, I think geographically it's a perfect fit for the Sun Belt, right? You already have two teams in Louisiana Lafayette and then Louisiana Monroe. Throwing in La Tech there makes perfect sense. And I mean, in Conference USA, you have a team in New Mexico and you have a team in Delaware. So the Bulldogs are joining one of the better geographical conferences still left. And I would have said the MAC would have been part of that, but now they're going to have a team in all the way out in California. I mean,
and you lost Northern Illinois and you lost Northern Illinois with the West Coast too.
Yeah, listen, obviously conferences don't matter anymore when it comes to geographic speaking. But
and I know I will say the Sun Belt East people, the ones that didn't want La Tech, ECU is the big one that they had pushed for, or potentially WKU. But I think they knew WKU wasn't going to move. And ECU, for whatever reason, maybe they were asked, maybe they didn't want to, but and also maybe they just it was the West that lost a team. Maybe they let those schools have more say in who was
to keep division,
which is fair.
The divisions intact.
Yeah,
and that also makes a lot of sense.
It does, and that's another interesting hypothetical, like as a variable here, because the people who I talked to that they didn't want La Tech, they also want to keep an East and a West division. And they're, we don't want La Tech. I was like, so you're going to lose divisions? Well, no, you could do it. I'm like, no, you can't have divisions with an odd number right now. It does not work. Like, you need a team for this year, or else we don't have divisions. And I think there's some mindset of, in all the evolution here, divisions are what make us different because nobody else does it anymore.
Yeah. So and whatever Conference USA does next, I think they need to do it sooner than later, because who knows? Maybe the Mountain West goes, we want a new team. New Mexico State makes a lot of sense. They're in an island in Conference USA, but here you have UTEP, which is a big rival with them, and you have New Mexico, it's a big rival. Maybe the American or Sun Belt wants Liberty in the future. They're up in Appalachia. So I think
Liberty was a team that I would have been okay with.
Yeah.
Too in the Sun Belt. I think just for who they are, some people didn't like that. Another one I would have liked, all right, was Jacksonville State too.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, I think way back when when teams like Marshall went to the Sun Belt American, I want to say the MAC was so close to getting both Western Kentucky and Middle Tennessee as well, but it had to have been a 2-package deal. Western Kentucky said yes, Middle Tennessee said no.
And that was that jives with what I've been hearing, because there was the scuttlebutt last year with, we want WKU, but they won't move unless you also take Middle. Then you need to get another team. And the nice thing with WKU and Middle is they can basically go in either division. So you have flexibility there, but it also is probably because you're adding another team then.
I guess all this is just to say Conference USA is in a very weird position, but it is, regardless, a pretty fun conference. And I think they've actually had great viewership numbers during that weekday CUSA stretch.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I love that them and the MAC do weekday games. It's so much fun. So, I guess, schedule-wise, it's tough we can't really talk about the conference stuff because we don't know. But let's talk back to Panthers in the off season.
Right.
So, my Marshall viewers and the people that follow me will know JJ Cole quite well, because App State, obviously a conference team, a division foe. They beat us the last game of the year. winning that would have. We were both 5-6, so the winner of that game was going to a bowl game, and unfortunately, we didn't come out on top.
Mm-hmm.
But Cole is an absolute giant of a man who was originally at Iowa State. And then you also have Zach Marker, who was at Delaware last year.
Right.
Didn't play, only played the one game. But is there much feeling one way or another on who's going to win the job?
I think at least for Kevin and myself, we're all in. We're laying the house on JJ Cole being a starter for FIU. You mentioned it. He only played in 8 games this past season, sort of came in during October. But what he was able to do, 12 touchdowns, just 2 interceptions, over 1,400 yards. I'd like to see what this man can do with a full season to work with in the group of 6 level. And you mentioned his time in Iowa State. I'm excited for that because we also picked up a wide receiver by the name of Greg Gaines III, who was a teammate of Cole in Iowa State back in 23. Gaines went to Rhode Island in FCS, but
I knew it was an FCS. I forgot that it was Rhode Island.
I'd like to see that connection hopefully blossom back here in the 305. Marker, I've talked to some of my friends from Delaware and this Delaware podcast. He's been sort of dealing through some injuries over these last couple of years, so he might be a bit more of a work in progress, but I can see him being a reliable backup if it were needed. But JJ Cole, I'm all in on him. He no joke, kind of reminds me of what Joe Pazanski was able to do for FIU, stepping in towards the latter end of this past season and putting up solid numbers throughout that month of November.
Yeah, it's a good point. Another big-bodied guy that was certainly going to be playing different than you did when Jenkins was in. But, hey, especially at the G5 level, evolving now is the name of the game. You got to be ready for whatever's going to happen to your roster. And I think it's, about you're either going to get the best guys and adapt to them, or you're going to only get guys for your system. And they've chosen to get the better guys. And I respect that. We'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Because FIU was lucky these last few years by being able to have a quarterback in Kewan Jenkins for 3 full seasons, all the way up to a junior. And obviously, that's near impossible to do these days. If you have a talented enough quarterback to retain him in the group of 5 or now group of 6 for this long is insane that we were able to do that. So this is going to be the first season in a while where the quarterback room is going to be 100% different looking. And I think so far they picked a good replacement in Cole, but we'll have to see with these upcoming
crazy how in-state to, you guys and USF did the same thing. Then you both lose them in the same offseason. But honestly, I was a little surprised that Jenkins didn't bounce last year with the coaching turnover. Yeah. Certainly there would have been the opportunity to do that. Yeah. But good for him. And
Willie Simmons talked about that the first time we had him on about a year ago, not long after he got hired from FIU. He talked about they had a great dinner at this fancy restaurant called the Rusty Pelican around Key Biscayne, and he sold him over. And then Jenkins was the preseason offensive player of the year in Conference USA. This season didn't really pan out for Jenkins the way we all thought it would. He's going to go down as one of the top quarterbacks in FIU history, partially due to how young the program is. Yep. But he was a solid passer and great at scrambling, and it felt like both of those abilities for him, I don't want to say regressed, but didn't get a whole lot better this upcoming season. And the offense itself was completely different as well with the new offensive coordinator and Nick Coleman. And then when he sort of started to go down with some injuries, and then you brought in Joe Pazanski, he sort of fit the system, I would say, a little bit better. And
which is good. That probably means Cole fits the system better then.
That's what we're thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, Cole. When I was doing my PhD at South Carolina, Coleman was an analyst there. So we overlapped for a few years at the same time with the Gamecocks. So familiar with him a little bit. I'm blanking on Dewitt. That's what I'm saying. The D Carter I knew was retained by Willie when he came in. He'd been there for a few years and was still there. So
he was when Mike McIntyre was let go. He was a guy that I know they had spoken to about maybe he wants to take over the head coaching roles, but he didn't. And then Willie Simmons retained him, and he's been he's been an absolutely great fit here as the DC for FIU. This is a defense that prides itself on talent all over the field, especially in that secondary. I mean, the amount of all conference players that comes out of our defensive backs has been pretty extensive, and this is going to be another big test for the secondary because, well, a whole lot left. They had a lot of seniors in the secondary and a lot more entering the transfer portal. I mean, pretty much every position at FIU was hurt in some way, either through graduation, because we had a pretty big senior class this past year, and then the transfer portal. But we did retain some talent here and there. Some great players are staying, especially in the wide receiver room. But I know to see how that secondary.
A few D-backs, you had Blades went to Wake Forest, Evans to Nebraska, and then someone went to Arizona State, but I'm blanking on who it was.
That was it was Josiah. That was McGrew. Josiah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. But I knew there were, and that speaks to if you're going to those schools, it's probably to be a player. You're not, it's guys that were developed by Do It Well and have, those teams are seeing, hey, these guys are probably plug and play guys who will be ready to go instantly.
I'd like to think so. There have been some solid names here. A whole lot of transfers, might I add. Then I found this interesting. The amount of talent we've sort of gotten from South Alabama has been pretty interesting so far in this transfer portal. I believe we have 3 guys all come from that school, all in defense too. So just a nice little tidbit there. You got Wesley Miller at safety. You have Nate Jennings and RJ Moss both in the defensive line. So some great pickups here and there. Some great stories too. I know a couple of guys. Like one interesting story is Lawrence Johnson, a cornerback we got from Florida Atlantic, who was originally an FIU Panther. So he's transferring back to the school that started it all for him. So I think that's going to be a great story that we'll have to sort of keep an eye on.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And then the one thing I also saw was you had mentioned before with the receiver Gaines, who was coming from Rhode Island. Yeah. You also got a tight end coming from Rhode Island too, correct?
Yes, we have some more people coming from Rhode Island.
On what his
Schaefer.
Kevin Schaefer.
That was
Schaefer. Okay.
He has a year of eligibility left. I mean, I'm interested to see how they sort of add tight ends into the system. It's it's kind of a strange system for tight ends. It felt like at some point they really wanted to hammer down tight ends being pass catchers and not blockers, but it felt like this season they kind of reversed it, that tight ends are mainly serving roles as blockers and not really pass catchers, which is a bit ironic because probably the best FIU alum playing in the NFL right now is Jonnu Smith, the tight end.
I almost wonder if part of that was just being practical with Jenkins. If you have a QB that's running that much, maybe you want your tight ends blocking and just create more of a push for him. But now, if you have a guy like Cole in there, are they going to want those guys to be out doing a little more in the receiving game? We'll see.
And FIU was a school that prided itself on having big time wide receivers. Like these past seasons, you had guys like Eric Rivers and Dean Patterson who were exceptionally great receivers, both through the medium throws and then the deep shots. They could do it all. But the transfer portal struck there in this past season. We've had some solid receivers. McGuire Anderson comes to mind, but he was really lethal in special teams. And then you're gonna have some receivers that are gonna be coming back. Kyle McNeil, JoJo Stone, and Eric Nelson are some of the biggest receivers that will be bringing back. And I'd like to see how they can sort of develop with another year here at FIU. But I don't know if we have a receiver like what we had with Eric Rivers or Dean Patterson. That was a crazy duo.
Yeah, I mean Rivers was very impressive. Like tough to replace a guy like that for any school,
Yeah.
Even at a P4 school, you're not always going to be able to replace a guy like him just for how consistent and explosive he was. So
absolutely,
that's tough. Yeah. But have the Panthers started spring ball yet?
They're going to be starting soon. I believe first practice is on the 10th. So that'll be going for a while. And then we are going to have a spring game, which is great. I know a lot of schools aren't.
We are. Marshall's having one too.
Yeah, I like the spring games. Obviously, they're not the craziest games played. Obviously, nothing close to official games, but it's just a nice little sampler of getting football. In the spring. That's going to be on April 11th, I think.
I believe that's the same day as Marshall's. Yeah.
Cool.
So going into spring ball, other than the QB battle, which we talked about, what are some other, things we should look for? Are there any other, position battles, guys, systems, and anything that we should keep an eye on?
Definitely look towards the offensive line. You had guys in Daniel Michelle, Mikhail Rabis, and then Jaheim Buchanan. They all left to other schools. So, I mean, that's three spots right there that are wide open.
Yeah.
That obviously it's going to be a massive.
Yeah, Rabis going to Cal was a big pickup for them. He was a solid player.
Yeah, and then we talked about it earlier, but the secondary. I mean, I think we already mentioned Victor Evans and Brian Blades. You also have Mr. Clark and Preston Thompson and Ashton Levels, who are all really good players that are also heading out too. And we did bring in quite a few guys from the secondary so far in this transfer portal. And then I'm just curious to see how many freshmen could potentially get starting spots here. I don't think it's going to be a whole lot, but maybe there could be a position or two here. And then there are some positions that I feel confident that we're going to know what they look like. I think running back is going to be one of them. You keep Anthony Carey, who is a very serviceable running back. And then you have the likes of Sterling Joseph, who we got to see very little of towards the latter end of this past season. He's returning, and he looked like he had a lot of potential that he and even Carey, we didn't really get to see that last year because Keyshawn Owens was the workhorse of the FIU offense. And I wish him best of luck in the NFL draft. But yes, Keyshawn Owens was incredible. And now we get to see what other running backs FIU actually had on the team that's returning.
Yeah, he was definitely the workhorse, and it's good to have one of those guys. But yeah, you don't know who the next man up is going to be, or how. If you have, it's probably unlikely one guy takes on that role. You probably have more of a committee, which is probably beneficial in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see what happens there.
Yeah. And I guess kind of a fun thing to look to. We don't really have a punter on the roster right now. They might be still looking around, getting some people in there. But, punting-wise, it's kind of weird right now. Special teams as a whole, it's a little strange. I think Coach kind of mentioned this past episode. They're still kind of searching around a little bit. They have some names that they're kind of looking into, but the only punter listed is a guy by the name of Adrian Hemelt, but we really don't know anything about it. And it was kind of
you just got this summer. You got to get a pro kick Australia guy to come in. That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
They're so good. Yeah. So that might be. See what happens. That's a good indicator, though. No, that's something I never would have thought of as what the depth of punting looks like. So that's good to know. Looking at around CUSA, what we always like to get into perceptions of the other teams and what you're expecting there. Who do you expect will be in the running in CUSA next year for potentially could go to that conference title game? I feel like in looking at it, I wouldn't be surprised if Jacksonville State's competitive again. They look like they have staying power, and Liberty, is decent. They were decent last year, but it was a disappointing year. I don't know if Chadwell lost his magic or what's going on there, but we'll see.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, I don't think it's going – I don't think it would be Louisiana Tech even if they were allowed to stay in Conference USA.
I'm glad you're saying that, yeah.
I thought Conference USA was doing good in building national recognition as a dangerous group of 16, and then that bowl game between Kennesaw State and I believe Western Michigan happened, and that didn't turn out great. Yeah. I think Kennesaw State's going to be a good team still.
WMU is better on D than most people. Their D coordinator is now the D coordinator for the Chargers. So
you're going to look at some of the usual suspects aside from just Kennesaw State, Western Kentucky, Jacksonville State, and Liberty. They always it always seems like they're always competing, like in those final weeks for a shot at the championship game. But listen, Conference USA, it's the Wild West of conferences right now. It is open that you can see a team like Sam Houston, who had an abysmal season last year, turn things around.
And they were legit the year before. With Keeler, they were pretty good.
Yeah, and the year in 2024, Kennesaw State was one of the bottom feeders of Conference USA. They added a new head coach, got brand new players, and turned around and won the damn thing. Beat us in our Vice night, which sucked. But so a team like Sam Houston and maybe Middle Tennessee, if they can work some things around in the offseason, they could turn it around. There's not that many schools in Conference USA, so there's not a whole lot of other teams you really have to beat. I don't hope it's Delaware, because this is just like some random mumbo jumbo. But FIU doesn't really have a rival in Conference USA. I'd like it to be Delaware. It's something about Miami teams taking on Northeastern teams in the NFL. The Dolphins. We hate the Patriots. We hate the Jets. Hate the Bills. The Heat. We don't like the New York Knicks. Maybe we can sort of do that with the Delaware, but I wouldn't mind them being our in-conference rivals.
A couple weeks ago, my article I wrote for that week was G5 teams that could surprise next year. I picked one from every conference, and I did pick Delaware. I think Minicucci's pretty good.
He's really good. Yes.
So they'll be. I think they'll be all right next year.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be up there too. And now that they can, because there was a real shot that Delaware could compete in the Conference USA title game last year if they were allowed to, but they were not because of the first year in FBS rules, which I do think is a little silly. And if a team like North Dakota State can't compete in a Mountain West this year, even though they're probably going to be one of the best teams, if not the best team in the Mountain West, it would be ridiculous if they couldn't. But Delaware, I expect to see up there too.
Yeah, that's an archaic rule. The window you have to wait after you move up. But and you'd mentioned WKU. You feel like they have the system down so good that they know exactly. They got Brock Glenn, who was a backup at Florida State. It'll probably be the QB. But Marvis Parrish comes back at running back for them. And
they're a team that's so consistent. It makes me more and more happy that we actually did beat them in Bowling Green, because the last time we went up there, we lost like 73-0.
Ooh.
So that made that victory all the more sweet. But Western Kentucky I think there has to be one of the most consistent teams in Group of 5, Group of 6 that many people don't talk about.
You feel like they win 9 every year. Like that's a good question. Consistent Group of 5 teams. It would be them.
Boise State, I'd throw in there.
Yeah, and people talk about Boise too.
Maybe Tulane. Maybe USF's turning into that.
I will be curious if Tulane can sustain that. I was not a fan of the Will Hall hire. He was not good at Southern Miss. And then with USF, before Golish got there, they had won 4 of their last 30 games when Jeff Scott was the head coach. So who knows what happens there. Toledo's always pretty consistent. They're another team that has underwent a coaching change this offseason with Candle going to UConn. So we'll see. A team that I expect, was better last year and I think is going to keep getting better because it is San Diego State. Sean Lewis is a pretty good coach. So
we'll
see what happens.
Listen, I'm a graduate. I love the university. I'd like to throw FIU into the ring too. Teams that got better and can continue to get better, especially if they nail those all-important positions. If Cole turns out to be our next the next Dan Marino in South Florida, it turns out to be JJ Cole from FIU, and if they can land the offensive linemen who are blocking for him, because I think that's a big reason why Byzanski walked into the system and blossomed overnight, is because we had a consistent offensive line last year. It's nice, it's refreshing that wasn't a major issue with the team last year. Is that the O line was consistent on this past season. But I'd like to see FIU get better to the point where they can compete for they can realistically compete for the spot the Conference USA title game and not have those frustrating losses this past season. They had less than before, but they still had some frustrating ones, such as to Missouri State, which I think was most of our losses, bowl game included, were like multiple possession kind of big blowouts. But Missouri State one haunts me because
we also took a late game loss to Missouri. We took a late game loss to Missouri State too here at Marshall, so I know the feeling. What about, let's dive into your, not a conference team, but your rivals. We got the FAU Owls. They returned Veldkamp. They have Easton Messer coming back, who had 1 million catches not really, but I think he had 105 catches last year. On the O-line, they were kind of 50-50 O-line wise, but
yes.
What are you hearing about the Owls in that game?
The fact that they were able to retain Veldkamp for another year was great for them. And I do think in the long run, Kitley is going to be a solid coach for FAU.
Yeah, I like that hire a lot too when it happened.
I think ultimately FAU last season was hit with the unfortunate realization that the conference they were competing in was having a generational run.
It was.
As far as great teams in it, UTSA, Tulane, USF. North Texas. They couldn't stand with those teams.
No.
But I hate to say it, if FAU was in a conference like CUSA or the Sun Belt, who knows? Who knows? But I don't really expect the American overall to cool down this year either. That's the thing. So we'll see what the road has in store for FAU. All I know is that when we took on FAU this past season, it was the first major test to see where FIU was as a team. Because before that, we played Bethune-Cookman, an FCS team, and then we went to Happy Valley and played Penn State. So the FAU game was the first game where we're like, okay, where is FIU in the FBS landscape? And we got our answer. They were in a pretty good spot, but Boca Raton is kind of it is a tough place to play. I've been to their stadium a few times. One for an actual Shula Bowl game that did not go our way at all. And then I went to the Boca Raton Bowl a couple of times. Nice place, obviously a nice university there in Boca Raton. It's only like 50 minutes away from FIU with like moderate traffic.
Okay.
So
I know on maps where they are, but I've never driven like.
Yeah. It's definitely a bit more north, but it's really pretty damn close to the point where a lot of players that play for both schools probably knew each other in middle school or in high school. The fans, we don't like them and they don't like us, and we wouldn't want it any other way. And the fact that they're now in two different conferences is kind of, I don't want to say it's diminished the rivalry, because they do keep scheduling each other as a non-con, but
and hopefully
I don't know. It's definitely put a dent in things, especially in other sports. Like we don't really plan often anymore in basketball. Baseball we do, but I don't know. It doesn't have the same feel, I think.
Baseball's easier to, like, you have 2 months of non-con. It's easy to schedule a baseball series like that, where, basketball's different.
Mm-hmm.
But, no, that's good stuff, though, So, glad we could talk a little bit about CUSA-wise. There's 2 questions I always ask my guests.
Okay.
And one of them I think I'll know the answer to, but then the other one we'll see. So the first one, going into next season, which coach in Conference USA is on the hottest seat? And it has to be Eric Mason. How can it not be Eric Mason?
You said his name and it immediately popped to mind. Yeah. I would arguably say you could probably throw Chadwell in there too, just because I know Liberty fans kind of have sort of unrealistic, or not even unrealistic, but they have crazy expectations for that football program being a championship contender year in and year out. So 1 year out of it is okay, but if it's 2 straight years, they might want to start asking some questions about if Chadwell can keep them going. But I think it has to be Mason. That Middle Tennessee program, I don't, they're in a state of disarray that kind of reminds me of FIU years and years and years and years ago. Then they got their new coach and they was able to turn it around. That's a theme here in Conference USA.
They're probably in the worst spot of any FBS school right now, Middle Tennessee, football-wise.
At least they're saving money by not having alternate uniforms.
That's fair. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a little surprised they still kept him around. They've been rough the last 2 years.
I couldn't imagine FIU without all the crazy, not even crazy, all the neato uniforms, the Vice, obviously. I mean, the eyes alone on social media are enough to justify, putting them out. And
their social media team does a great job of like the uniform drops and unveils.
The trailers are elite. The trailers, and they get better year after year after year. First year you had the Lamborghini cruising down Biscayne, and then the second year you had them in the center console boat just rolling through. And then this past year was amazing. The heist.
I remember the Lamborghini one. I don't remember the boat one. Okay.
Yeah, that was the second year when we had the all white look. They were in a boat out in the Atlantic. That was a great one. And this past year, you had like the car chase and the helicopter with Kewan Jenkins and Willie Simmons. It was that team. They really put 110% towards Vice Week, and I can't blame them because it's incredible, especially because the games are nationally televised too.
Yeah.
The only problem is that we're 0-3 in Vice uniforms.
Ooh.
Have not won a game yet in the Vice colors in football, despite having the Lamborghinis on the field and all the other cool things that go with that.
Yeah, that's cool. Like they always do a good job with that.
Mm-hmm.
I asked the hot seat question, and the second question I always ask, and you can answer with your home team if you want to here, but what coach in Conference USA do you think is most likely to get a job at a big school?
I thought it almost happened with Willie Simmons. Honestly, I mean, there was a lot of USF talk that he was going to be the new guy for the Bulls.
And he's a good. Jerry Mack is another good guess too.
Maybe Cardi for Delaware. How he was able to get a team from FCS to FBS, immediately throw them into becoming a winning FBS team.
I wonder with Cardi, would he be a little less likely than them though, because he's a Delaware alum? Would it make it tougher for him to leave?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
it would. But I mean, if a power conference team is desperate enough, not even power conference, if a really good team in the American or the Mountain West is calling, it's hard to say no. I get it. But yeah, I'd say Cardi and you mentioned Mac.
Cardi's a good one. I didn't think of him. Yeah, I wonder, and I don't know budget wise, but he was with Keeler before at Sam Houston.
Mm-hmm.
If Sam Houston fires Longo, which they were awful last year, do you think he would go back to Sam Houston for the right money? Because they probably have more money than Delaware.
He'd be having to retain a Sam Houston team that is kind of sort of on the up and up. Don't let the attendance dissuade you. They do have a great fan base. They just had to play in a different stadium this past season, like an hour away from their campus.
Yeah, was not even getting. And they're so I was a grad assistant at Northwestern State when where Southland and Sam Houston was at the time. So went to games there, and they had a good setup there.
Yeah, but I believe it was new suites and a new press box that they had to go to downtown Houston and play at the MLS team stadium, which is like an hour away from campus. So it was kind of a tough break, and it certainly showed it.
They were driving almost as far as UCLA does for home games.
But the program does have potential, and I think it could be a solid move. And like I said, this is a conference that can reward teams that have bad seasons in 1 year, then turn around, get a new coach, get a new whole host of players. It can work in Conference USA. Maybe not in the American. It's a little too stacked. Sun Belt, you can have the same problems. But Conference USA, it can happen.
Yeah, definitely. But Cardi's a good one. Mac, I think, would probably get my vote for that, but Cardi's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
So no, that's a good one. But
not even going to say Willie because I feel selfish. I don't want to see him go. I want to see him coach here for a million years and get a statue.
Yeah, I will say the one scenario that I don't think is too or it's not far fetched.
Florida State.
No, if Duke keeps winning games, Manny Diaz gets another job who's Duke first call going to be?
The guy that knew Manny Diaz pretty well. Yes.
Yeah.
I definitely don't see the irony.
Yeah.
Right. I do see the irony in that. But again, I hope it does not happen.
No.
It's obviously way out of my control. I believe he actually did recently get an extension anyway for like maybe another year or two. But
and not like those schools can't afford it. It's just a different dollar amount for them. Yeah.
It's I guess keeping here long term would be the same as trying to get players to come here before the age of NIL, where you had the pretty basic arguments. I mean, you coach a team in Miami. You're in South Florida. The weather's usually great. A lot of benefits, great culture, no state tax. There's a lot of great things that come with being a coach in South Florida.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Another one, and out this time of year, out of season, there's not always good ones here, but going into this coming season or anything, do you have any hot takes or bold takes going into the 2026 season?
I would say Drake May is overrated, but that's the wrong sport.
Okay.
Feel
free to you can say it if you want to. Yeah.
As far as what, Conference USA or just college football?
Any college football, anything.
I think North Dakota State is going to thrive in FBS. I think Sacramento State not so much. And it's definitely going to be a risky move for them, especially because they weren't exactly entering FBS on a high note.
They were not.
It's obviously a place they wanted to be in for a while with the Pac-12. And
there's going to be a lot of travel for them. It's going to be weird road games when they get in conference play for them.
I guess hot take. I would definitely say the new Pac-12 is going to be closer to being a power conference than a group of 5 or 6 conference, in the same way that UConn is closer to being a power conference team than a group of 5 teams technically.
That's a great bold take. I like that one. Yeah. About the new look Pac-12. That's a good one. But that is where we are going to end tonight. We're almost approaching on our hour.
Right.
But Jake, I want to thank you for being here. It was a great show. All of our users out there, they can see your tags at the bottom here. And again, appreciate you being here, and we'll have to definitely collaborate in the future.
Absolutely, Mike. Thank you for having me. And I like these hour-long discussions during the off season. We're all just fiending for more football, for football to come back. So the most we can do right now is just talk about it. And it's a great show here, off season after dark, and certainly it's doing its job here in the off season. So thanks again for having me, Mike.
That's right. Absolutely. Take care.